Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today I'm going to be checking out the Furibee FX120. This is a brushless micro quadcopter and it's not to be confused with the Eachine Falcon. Now I got confused first of all because it looks very similar, but it's actually a completely different model and I think not to be overlooked. So as I say, it does look very similar to the Eachine 120. We have the camera up the top there, which everybody disliked from the Eachine 120. However, this is a popular form factor, the 120 size, and I know that a lot of people enjoyed the Falcon 120 despite the camera being at the top there, and I never actually broke mine. But this one is considerably different component wise. So the frame is actually a different 120 size frame and it's very sturdy. I can't feel any flexing in there. Now the motors are unbranded and they are 1306, but they are 3100 kV motors, so I think slightly less than the Eachine Falcon. But we have got a tri-blade propeller here, and I think they were quad blades on the Eachine version as well, and they look to be really durable. Maybe they are a dowel prop. It says on here 3045 for the pitch. Just one thing I've noticed though, look how close this propeller is coming to this wire here. I'm not too keen about that, but that's something that you tend to get on these really tiny builds. So underneath here, this is different as well. We have got a Velcro strap, but then a plate for your battery to sit on. So it does come with a 3-cell battery. This is a Furibee branded 30C 620 milliamp 3-cell battery with an XT60 connector, and it's probably gonna fly fine with this. However, what I'm finding attractive about this model is that it should easily run a 4S. So we have got a completely different flight control system. So what this is here, it is the Fly Pro 8-in-1 tower, so completely different from the Eachine Falcon. So we have got 20 amp all-in-one ESCs down here, and they are flashed with BL Heli but not BL Heli S. And then as you work your way up, you can see there that there's actually no wires connecting the boards together, and it's using these slot together standoffs here. And then above there we've got an SP Racing F3 flight controller, and you can see there that the receiver is plugged into the side. Again, the propeller's getting very close to where the receiver goes in, and that is the A8S FlySky receiver that it is using. And then this top board here is a on-screen display, multi-wii, and also a 40-channel VTX, which is switchable from 25 milliwatt to 600 milliwatt, but more on that later. And then lastly we have got the CMOS camera up the top here, which does seem to be the same camera as the Eachine Falcon. And again, they have just taken the antenna from the receiver there and just had it flopping about, so I've just put it in one of these holes here in the side of the camera just to stop it getting hit in the props. But I have to say, it's a really tidy build, and there's just the elephant in the room really of the camera on top, and I know a lot of people are disappointed with that, especially from the Eachine version. Would have been nice to have sort of like another carbon fiber pod up here to protect that, but of course that would be more weight. Another thing I should mention as well is the camera was offset out of the box, so you're given this little Allen key thing here, and you can tighten all of the hex screws up, and this here was mounted the other way around, and it was off to one side, and I was finding that when I was angling the camera around, it was catching the back of this dipole antenna here that you're given. So I took the top off here, and then there's 2 screws underneath there. I reversed that around, reversed the camera around, and then there's more space then. So I don't know why they constructed it in that way, but they did. So let's talk about this antenna on the top here. So it's actually an SMA connector, so it is going to be compatible with immersion, and I'm considering switching that out for maybe a TBS Triumph, but then it looks huge, doesn't it? Hopefully that won't mess with the balance too much there, but yeah, maybe I will fly with that. So one thing I'm not too keen on as well with this design is we have an XT60 here, but it runs out of the side here down one of the arms, and it's catching on the motor, so I'm going to have to be careful there. Also, the XT60 is using these gauged wires here. I think, I can't quite make out, but it's probably going to be 16 gauge or 14 perhaps, and that is soldered directly onto the ESC board there, and it looks pretty weak, so I'm going to have to be careful with that. But no, I like the construction. We've got all sturdy standoffs here, and it looks like it's built pretty nicely. So we have got lots of different ports here. So this port here on the ESC board would be if you were wanting to piggyback it on and solder it to the flight controller. We don't need to do that with this model because, as I say, it's got these standoffs here. And then we have got some spare ports on the flight controller, which you would expect, but it's already connected up here. So there's no LED strip with this one, and no buzzer. Of course you could add that if you wanted, but there's not a lot of room to do that. The Falcon 120 had a LED strip on the back, but I'm never a big fan of LED strips anyway, so I'm glad it hasn't got that. And then moving up to the top here, we have got the on-screen display and VTX board. So somewhere, there we go, it is here, got a little micro connector, and then that connects up here to this SMA connector, so that's dealt with nicely. Also on the flight controller somewhere we've got a little boot button, which I think is a nice touch because it means you don't have to undo the stack to press the bootloader there if you brick it whilst trying to upgrade the firmware. By the way, I should say this came with CleanFlight installed on it, and I have installed Betaflight, and that was really simple to do. So there is a USB connector here for flashing the firmware and accessing Betaflight and CleanFlight. But you'll notice no USB port for the on-screen display, so it is multi-way on-screen display, and you would use this port here for that, and that would connect up to an FTDI adapter, which you aren't given. However, you can use the CleanFlight pass-through command and use multi-way on-screen display to change any settings through the USB connector here. However, it doesn't really matter about any of that because I found that the settings I wanted to change in the on-screen display could be changed in the menu itself. So when you put the throttle in the middle and then yaw to the right and pitch forward, you can change your PIDs through there, and you can also change some of the on-screen display settings. And I went and got rid of the artificial horizon, and I also changed the low voltage alarm as well because that was flashing up too quickly. So we'll take a look at that a little bit later. So we are given a Allen key, as I mentioned, given the dipole antenna, which I mentioned, and the battery. You're given some Velcro pads here. You're given a bind button in case you lose the bind to the receiver, and then you're given a charger for charging a 2 or 3S battery. You're given a spare set of props. I thought that these were instructions, but that's just the instruction manual for the transmitter, which is the FlySky i6. So you'll notice this time no eSheen branding, it's just a FlySky i6. I have swapped it over to mode 1, which is easy. You just take the screws off on the back, switch the pots over, go into the settings and change the stick mode. And I have also put 4 AA batteries in it, so it needs that. And it was just set up to arm on the rudder, and then these were your angle, horizon and acro settings, but I've gone and changed that. So if we go into the settings here, you can see you can just go in there and go into the aux channels. I've set up my channel 5 for switch C, so that is this mode switch. That was the same, but then I've changed switch A to channel 6, which is that one, so I can have it arm on that one and have my modes on that one. I've tested the failsafe and that works. The only other thing that you're given is this, and I can't work out what it's for. That's surely for a balance lead for a battery, and then I have no idea what these are for. Now this is something that is a pain. I wondered if it was for the OSD, but that won't fit in there, and it doesn't fit anywhere, so I have no idea what this cable is for. One thing that's really annoying me about this package is it's good, but there's no instructions at all. So the only way that I found out how to get this working really was to figure out that this is from the X-Jaguar, the FlyPro X-Jaguar. And one thing that I just couldn't figure out was how to change the power of the VTX. So this is power switchable from 25 milliwatt to 600 milliwatt. And somewhere on the on-screen display board is a button. There it is, a little tiny button here. Let me see if I can get it to focus. There's a little tiny button, and to change it between the two different powers you have to hold that button down and then plug in here, and then I think you get a slow blinking light for the lowest power and then a quicker blinking light for the 600 milliwatt. Now on RC groups I've been reading that the 600 milliwatt is actually only 300 milliwatt, but that should be fine. But I've also seen a couple of people to say that when they switched the power on the VTX, all of a sudden the chip burnt out, maybe a voltage spike from plugging in the battery like that was pressing that button down. So I'm not going to change the power on this one, a little bit of a downside there. And then also how to change the VTX channels is tricky as well. So it's a 40 channel VTX, and we have got some lights here, some LEDs, you can see them there, and those are labeled the different bands. So E, A, B, C, I think that is, just can't quite make it out. Yeah, E, A, B, C, D, right? So those are your bands, and then on here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and a short press of that button will take you through the first 4 channels of that band, and then if you press it again, then 2 of these lights light up, and the other 2, and the other 2. Let me see if I can show you that, because it's a little bit fiddly and took me a while to figure it out. So where's the button there, it's at the back. So you can see there at the moment it's on the second light across. So you are given a little cheat sheet. This is the cheat sheet, and you can see there that channel A, it tells you that it's light 1, light 2, light 3, and it tells you the different frequencies here. So let me find that button again. There. Right. So it's very fiddly, this is. So if I short press this, I can then go through all of the different channels, and you'll notice there's only 4 LEDs and we've got 8 channels, so it doubles up there, okay? Okay, and then when that light goes off, it's selected the channel. So to go through the band, you have to short press the button for just a couple of seconds, and that will flash. And then you have to be very quick, and then that will take you through the different bands. So let me try again. It's so fiddly, this. So couple of seconds flashing, couple of seconds flashing, couple of seconds flashing. Yeah, so you have to hold it for a couple of seconds to change the band, and then that doubles up as 2 lights as well. And then once you're done with that, you can leave it a second and it stays on that band. I found that really fiddly. And there's 3 lights here. I don't know why they didn't make it so that you could have a long press, like a 5-second press, and then this showed you the power output. I think that would have been much better. But there you go. I guess it's the progression of technology, and maybe we will see that one day. So with its native 3S battery, it weighs 207 grams, so you are under the 250 gram limit. And with a 4-cell battery, which is what I'm going to be flying with, these are the OptiPower Racing 4S batteries, 50C, 850 milliamp. It weighs 250 grams exactly. So in America, would I have to register it or not if it weighs exactly that? So here we are in the Betaflight configurator. You get this from the Chrome App Store. As I already mentioned, I have already flashed Betaflight to this model, so I recommend that you do that. I've got the quadcopter plugged into the computer via its USB cable, and you can see up there I've got a COM port, so let's connect to it. Now, you might want to calibrate your accelerometer here, and as you can see, my quadcopter is not on a level surface, so make sure it is before you do that. Let's enable expert mode here and go into the ports. So we've got UART1 turned on. That is going to be for our USB port, so don't turn that off, otherwise you won't be able to connect to it and you'll have to go into bootloader mode to reset that. The UART2 is going to be for the telemetry to the on-screen display, and then the serial RX is selected on UART3 for the receiver. So you can see the board alignment is set at 45 degrees, so you're going to want to remember that if you upgrade to a different version of Betaflight. I have got motor stop off here, and all this is just stock settings, min and max values there. So if we scroll down here, VBAT is enabled. You can see there's some voltages coming through from the USB cable. However, I don't think it's going to affect the quadcopter because it doesn't have a buzzer, and these figures here I believe are for a buzzer, and the scaling for the on-screen display is done within the on-screen display, so I don't think these warnings are going to trigger anything in the on-screen display. So RSSI is enabled, but this receiver doesn't have a telemetry output for RSSI, so up here it's selected as serial based receiver and iBus, so that's the FlySky system. Also got current meter enabled as well, but I don't think it's got one. We've got telemetry down here and black box and transponder. So craft name, that's not going to do anything because it's multi-way on-screen display and not Betaflight on-screen display. So let's go into the failsafe here. so it's set to drop, but when it was in clean flight it was set to land. I always prefer to have it set to drop because landing means it's not going to stop the props, and I prefer it to just hit the deck. It's the safest way in my opinion. So let's go to PID tuning. I think these are the stock PIDs. I may have bumped the D up a little bit. I've bumped the Super 8 up to 0.8. Everything else here is stock. Now the receiver is AETR for the FlySky channel map. The modes I changed around completely, so it was set up for angle, horizon, and then acro. I've gone with the Aurora settings. I quite like them. So I've got it to ARM on the AUX 2 on a 2 position switch. Just ignore these values here, it's because the transmitter's not on and the battery's not plugged in. See, the receiver only powers up when the battery is plugged in, so you have to take the props off for that. But yeah, I have got acro over here, and then angle, and then acro and air mode. These smaller models like to fly in air mode because the copter descends slowly. So I've set that up. You've seen this one, anti-gravity. I need to look up what that is. It sounds fun. No beeper, of course, because it doesn't have one. I didn't need to calibrate the ESCs. That was all fine. So let's go into the CLI here and type version. So latest version there, as far as I'm aware. Okay, let's disconnect out of this, and then let's go into the Hali Suite, and I'm just gonna plug a battery in just to see if it recognizes anything. So again, choose the COM port and then read. There we go. Yeah, so 20 amp, look, see, and version 14.6, so this should be a fun one to fly. So here we are looking through the goggles now. This is not the stock view that you get with this model. I've made some changes, but we've got the battery voltage there at the bottom left, so it's just the 3S I've used to power up this one. Then we've got the flight mode at the top there, so that should go from stability to acro and air. And then if I arm it, that disarm will change to armed and then go away. And you can see there it says on time. That will reset to flight time when I arm it. But what I want to do is show you the settings that I changed. So we put the throttle in the middle, and then yaw fully to the right, and then pitch forward. That gives us these settings here. So you can then use the rudder to go through the different screens, and so that is your PIDs there, but you can change all sorts of stuff. So I changed the crosshairs and horizon, so I got rid of that. And can you see there where it says main volts alarm? I turned that to 0. That stopped the voltage flashing too early. I hate that. And did I change anything else in there? So cells, it's set to 4, which is fine. So let's move across here. So this is where you've got some of your display settings. So that's just adjusting amps. Here we go. You can see horizon, sidebars, scrolling bars, all off, and throttle as well. And then if I just come across here, and then I can use the aileron, I think, and just exit out of that, and that gave me a much cleaner on-screen display. Okay, let's go for a takeoff with this one, starting off in angle mode. So this is a 4-cell battery. It's a 750 milliamp Turnigy graphene battery. Let's check out the punch. Oh, it never gets old. That is nuts, isn't it? So I think what we have here is the smallest micro that can take a 4S with an on-screen display. Absolutely bonkers. Okay, see if I dare try some acro. Oh yeah, no problem. Smooth even, by my standards. Keep it in close. Orientation a little bit difficult with all the props the same colour. Oh, it's so fast. Nice loop there, don't get out of control. Bit of a barrel roll. Two-point backflip. Feels really nice and locked in. No vibrations on the power delivery. This world is getting crazy for this technology. I say it every time, but what a nice little aircraft. Looks pretty smart as well. You'll notice, or you might be able to notice, I've had to put some hot glue on that lens at the front. It's a little bit loose. You have to focus it. Having too much fun with this one. Enjoying flying line of sight these days. Nice to mix it up. Okay, let's come in for a landing because there's no battery telemetry in the form of a buzzer. So let's come in for a landing. Oh, look what we have here, a visitor. I would love to have my own dog. And the reason I'm showing you this screenshot here is these are the final PIDs that I went with. However, this flight that we're watching here, I flew with the TBS antenna and the reception was amazing. However, I struggled to get a good tune on the pitch, and I think it was because the balance was just too far out. No matter what I did with the PIDs, I probably spent maybe a good half an hour messing around, and you can see there on the backflip it would just wobble and I could never get it perfect, and I came to the conclusion that it was that antenna just being too long for the model. And it was only the backflips, you can see it's flying fine and the reception was great. The only problem is there is some jello there, and I don't think that can really be fixed because that mount, it's plastic and it flexes and everything's close together. I mean, it's not terrible, but I think what they should have done with this is taken a smaller camera, because this is a CMOS camera anyways. You know, I mean, the quality's pretty good, but you could have taken one of those little 3-gram cameras and maybe hid it in somewhere, maybe even glued it in, and then we wouldn't have any of this jello and vibration. It was the same with the Falcon as well, but again, it's not debilitating. It's a nice shot, and I was impressed with it. But what I am going to do in a minute is switch to some footage that I took where I used the antenna that it came with. Now, it did break up more, but it was still absolutely usable. And as I say, apart from on the backflip, the tune was pretty good. I was pretty impressed with it. So if you want to copy that, then by all means. So the flight time on a 750 milliamp battery came to about 3.5 minutes. The 850 milliamp battery was over 4 minutes, and that was being quite aggressive as well. So I think this is a good model. I wish it had better instructions. I wish the camera was better. Maybe you could even switch it out for a run cam or something like that, because, you know, I don't think one of those is gonna way much more. There's a little PAL NTSC switch on the back of the camera that comes with this, by the way, if that interests you. But yeah, I was pretty impressed with this model in general. Get yourself some 4-cell batteries and you'll have some fun with it. And I'll put a link in the description if you wish to get one. And as I say, I'm going to leave you with some flight footage taken with the other antenna, and I got a better pitch response from my tune. So as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.